Hello again, Conte. Sorry for the lack of videos and stuff. As I've said before, not feeling particularly great. Hopefully I'll be better by Fatalis, we'll see. But yeah, so every Chargeblade player and their fucking grandma is spamming SAEDs to take down Lunastra in about 5 minutes. It's really not that hard. You've probably seen it by now. Yeah, if you're a Chargeblade player, you know what to do. You just go load up your files and Ultra and then Lunastra dies after about 5 minutes. It's not that hard. But I've seen quite a few people saying that Savage Axe is like a no-go for this fight. And like, so I thought I'd give it a shot. So I actually took my regular SAED spam set and I just decided to try a couple of runs doing Savage Axe. And it really wasn't that bad. This is a pretty scuffed run. It's a bit of an abortion. And it actually goes fairly well. So I thought I would show you an alternative way to handle Lunastra. If you're interested in SAED spam, I do have some like 4 minutes, 4 minute 45 type runs of it. But I didn't do much Lunastra because I can't really stand the fight. I can post them, but Fatalis is coming in a couple of days, so I don't know if there's any point. We'll see. But yeah, you want to load up Savage Axe, just for anybody who isn't aware, because I know last time I posted Savage Axe once people were a little bit confused as to how it works. You do that weird animation that charges your and you get the second sort of next to the shield, you get that little icon. And basically, as soon as you run out of files, that disappears and you have to recharge. And so the idea is to never run out of files. And so charge your shield as little as often, and SAED as little as often, obviously, because you always want to keep at least one file in there. So you see, now that I'm at 2 files, I'm loading back up. Anyway, that's the quick summary on how exactly Savage Axe runs work. This is, I want to mention again, this is not a very clean run. This could definitely be improved big time. I really don't like the Lunastra fight, if I'm being completely honest with you. And so I didn't spend too much time doing it. This is probably like second or third attempt. The only reason I'm posting it so late is because of the aforementioned motivational issues. Anyway, I'm gonna stop bitching. But yeah, it's quite different than a lot of Savage Axe playstyles. Like in my little experience doing it, I didn't handle it in much the same way that I did for, like, for example, Alatrion. There's a lot more sheathing and a lot more morphing back into sword mode and stuff, but we'll hopefully show that off soon. Yeah, and you can see that a lot of Lunastra's hitboxes are kind of wonky. They go over you or they miss you, and a lot of its moves just completely whiff because I think the prioritization of the fight is more on sort of like AoE and that kind of stuff. And so the idea is to stay fairly close to Lunastra, somewhere between sort of her legs, and just to sort of spam your standard Savage Axe play as much as possible. I will often find myself sheathing and then unmorphing as sort of like and then going straight into a morph back into sword mode will be quite a frequent occurrence in this run, as I'm sure you'll see. There are quite a few moves that can be punished. Obviously, you've probably seen Lunastra's weird move where it like charges up, and if you don't do enough damage in a certain threshold, it like ups its rage level or whatever the term is. That is a nice opportunity to get a couple of hits off. You want to be landing SAEDs as much as possible. Sorry, AEDs as much as possible whenever you can, whenever it's down at the end. Just because they do so much damage. That's if you land one on the wing, that's something like 500 damage, and then you've got files too. So it's a really good thing to go for in with this playstyle. Now, there's always a little bit of a consideration: is should you be going for the legs when it's down, or should you be going for the wings when it's down? I've kind of erred on the side of both. Going for the legs lets the next knockdown occur easier, but the knockdowns themselves, I haven't found them being particularly consistent or easy to sort of reproc, and so I would sort of maybe aim for both or prioritize wings a little bit, but it's really hard to say. And as I said, I haven't optimized this run or anything. I'm just showing you how I managed to get a fairly reasonable like, I've done this a few more times. This has been my best run out of the 2 or 3 that I tried. The others weren't far off. They were something like 5.5 minutes. So yeah, it's not that bad. Also, there's something you'll notice: the shield thrust is a really nice move for this fight, and just like overcharging your sword in general is really handy, because it lets you sorry, not overcharge. Charging your sword means you can overcharge and just spam. I don't know if you've seen the sword mode chargeable playstyle. It's kind of a niche thing. If you overcharge your... Anyway, I'm talking about SAED moves. I shouldn't. We'll talk about that some other time. But actually, I guess people don't really know about that, so maybe I should do an SAED. I should really cut this out, but I'm not going to. There's not much to talk about with this run, to be honest with you. It's fairly simple stuff. You can see what I'm doing. I'm sort of relying on Lunastra to aggro the cat or to use her jank hitboxes to miss me. All the while I'm using morph slashes and whatever sword moves I can hit to try and make her topple over and spam my double swing. It's yeah, there's not a huge amount to talk about here, to be honest with you. You can see that I do that a lot. I'll morph and then I'll go back into sword and then I'll roll to get out of the way. Now, this move here, if you're not on top of any of the purple flames, you won't get hit by it, but there is some wind pressure. And so if you use a move with a lot of super armor on it, like for example or not even a lot of super armor, just a little bit of super armor, it's usually enough to get it. You can see that I'm aiming for the wings, but no such luck. But it's not a big deal either way, because the ice files themselves do a ton of damage. And so generally ending with an AED is a really good idea for as many combos as possible. I'm not really sure how this run was like so quick. I mean, 5 minutes isn't quick, but by Lunastra standards and by my other run standards, this was honestly like, I was pretty happy with how this run turned out. So I don't know, Savage Axe is definitely like viable for this fight. But yeah, there's the run. I'll show you the set now. As I mentioned earlier, it's just an SAED set that I decided to try Savage Axe out on. But I thought I'd show it off anyway. I'll show like all of my decorations and stuff for anybody who wants to copy this set. And then I'll talk about the set in a bit more detail afterwards. I'm sorry for not posting, by the way. I do feel a little bit bad. I'm not streaming as well, but we'll get back into it, I'm sure. Anyway, now let me show you the set in more detail. So here is the set. I'm using Kya Ice Charge Blade, obviously, and 5 pieces of Safi. On the other page, there's the skills that I have in the mantles, but I didn't use those, and I've got like a point of coalescence too, which is kind of nice. But you can see this is actually just an SAED set because of the 3 points of focus. Generally, I don't advise running focus for Savage Axe, and even in this matchup, I wouldn't run it either. It's just I was not bothered to make a set specifically for this for this matchup because I wasn't planning on doing much Savage Axe stuff. But yeah, definitely you can improve the set big time, and that will help you push the time down even more so. But yeah, as far as notable skills go, it's very typical Charge Blade stuff. Protective Polish with Item Prolonger 3 lets you stay into White Sharpness, especially because we're not using like Kaiser or anything. Weakness Exploit is a no-go for this playstyle because most of your hits are going to be hitting the legs unless you want to like tenderize, but even then your double swings are going to be going through the monster and hitting like all the other untenderized hit zones. And so you want to be running Critical Eye as opposed to Weakness Exploit. Generally speaking, that's how I would do it anyway, because even in the SAED playstyle, you do a lot of like overcharged sword stabs on the leg. And those don't benefit from weakness exploit as well. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be relying on weakness exploit for your affinity. You got the 40 from Safi, as well as the base affinity of Kya, and then it's fairly easy to just stack critical eye and maybe use an affinity augment on the weapon to get you up to 100 affinity. But yeah, other than that, we're just stacking ice attack. We've got crit boost on there, crit element from the weapon, obviously. Capacity boost is pretty typical. I have 1 point of guard because this is just my Teostra set. I don't know if more points are better, but I don't find myself guard pointing much, because there aren't that many openings that go like guard point into AED or anything like that for Lunastra, at least in my experience. And so, especially the big moves, there's not a huge amount of benefit to running guard from what I can tell, but I might be completely mistaken. I am not a huge Charge Blade main. Maybe 5 points of guard is meta for Lunastra. I really don't know. Yeah, this isn't like a very optimized run or build. This is mostly just me showing you that it's possible, and maybe you should consider giving it a shot, especially if you're a more casual Charge Blade player and you don't necessarily care about sticking towards optimal 100% of the time. It's completely viable to just go Savage Axe and dart through Luna's legs, and it can. I'm not going to call it fun because that's calling anything that Lunastra offers is fun is risky business. But it can be a slightly more enjoyable way to fight Luna as opposed to just hoping for your SAEDs to not get interrupted by attacks. But yeah, I think I covered basically everything. I'm sorry this fight's so garbage. I'm sorry this hunt is so awful. I hate Lunastra. But I love you guys, and hopefully I'll be back with more frequent videos when Fatalis comes out. Alright, take it easy. Love you all.